And alas, we are back for another episode, Final Score Overtime. Yours truly, Ben Peck, with Jake Meyer and Aaron Reynolds, the one only. Jake Eichstedt,
skiing
on the slopes.
Yeah.
In Colorado.
Shredding some gnar.
No.
Johnny Bravo takes Colorado. So he's not with us this week, although we can be assured he does have a lot of thoughts on some of the action we saw and the Super Bowl coming up. We're going to recap it a little bit. We'll start with the AFC Championship game, a game that meant a lot to not only some people here, but a lot of people in the region with the quarterback battle. Patrick Mahomes, Texas Tech. Ryan Tannehill, we've always talked about the Big Spring connection. Should also know he was a pretty good quarterback for Texas A&M back in his day as well.
He was a great receiver.
Good receiver.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
That's
but,
where he
I
shined.
told him, hey, look at my tape with the Steers. I was pretty good throwing the ball, too.
Exactly.
And 35-24 Chiefs. Aaron, as the resident's hashtag authentic Chiefs fan.
Yes.
What were your thoughts kind of going through this game? Because, interestingly enough, we once again, kind of like every other game we saw, Tennessee jumping out to like a pretty decent lead, and they don't need much with how they can run the ball.
I know. Well, we talked about going into Sunday that we didn't know how Kansas City would perform against the Titans just because their pass rush defense has not been so fantastic during the regular season. As a matter of fact, it was one of the worst. So with Derrick Henry, of course, that's your main concern. But I thought, those first two plays, the Chiefs looked a little rough, a little rusty. I feel like that's how they started out a lot of their games, though. But then after that, I feel like they did a really good job defending the Titans. And more so than that, I mean, you said a quarterback battle, but there's no one as good as Patrick Mahomes has been playing in these last couple of weeks.
By the way, Chiefs,
and I think he showed that
Yeah.
in dramatic fashion on Sunday.
I was just going to say, to your point about the run defense being concerned, their run defense was just a little bit better than the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, that's not good.
It's not a good sign.
Yeah.
I just thought I watched the games, this weekend, and the Titans came out and they took that lead right in the beginning, and I was like, ooh, this is a Kansas City win. Like, this is exactly where Kansas City's comfortable in this. Because, the Titans can hold the ball and run the ball a ton, but when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes and you have the speed that Kansas City has, I was like, man, once Kansas City breaks this open, the Titans are going to fall off, because it felt like they gave, that initial punch, and then it just wasn't going to, because all of a sudden they went from trying to score, trying to take the lead, trying to hold the lead, to just trying to maintain.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And
that is exactly where Kansas City will beat you every single time, because they are just so fast and they can score so quick. They had that one drive right after they got down 10-3 or whatever it was, and they drove down the field in 2.5 minutes and put a touchdown up and took the lead, and it was like, oh yeah, this is over. I was convinced at that point.
I think we got to give a lot of shout out to Kansas City's O-line too.
Yeah.
They gave Mahomes so much time.
They did.
So
it's tough not to have a good game when you can walk around back there for 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, and for me, the thing with Kansas City, and it's hard for me to watch Patrick Mahomes after watching him in college and not make comparisons to Texas Tech. Unlike Texas Tech, they can score in a hurry. So even though if they get down a little bit, you're not too worried that not that they're not in trouble if they're down double digits, but that the current score the other team has is going to be enough to beat you. That said, I think something to your point a little bit, Aaron, that I think Kansas City, it really helps them is they don't. It's not necessarily what they lean into, but if they need to run the ball, they can.
Yeah.
And they had that one drive right. It was the third quarter. They scored right at the start of the fourth quarter where they chewed up 7 minutes. 13 plays, 73 yards, 7-minute drive. That's something that is unlike what a Texas Tech-like team would be able to do.
yes, and we got to talk about Mahomes' one play where everyone thought he was going to run out of bounds.
Yep,
that was
insane.
Too,
that was probably the nicest play of the postseason.
That was also such a smart. I love watching high IQ football. That was such a smart play because they had 2 or 3 timeouts. There's only 15 seconds, so time was not an issue. And to your point, Aaron, it seemed like it caught everyone off guard that he stayed in bounds. It's guys, he doesn't need to run out of bounds.
Yeah.
And then
He just
made the most of it.
Well, and I thought the end of it, it was a great run by Mahomes, but the end of it, that was really bad tackling by Tennessee. It felt like they were trying to strip the ball there at the end. like trying to, turn
Yeah.
that play into a positive for
Yeah.
them when they should have just tackled him and tried to hold him to a field
Yeah.
goal. But, that's all right.
Shout out to Ryan Tannehill, by the way, completed more passing yards in this game than he did the first 2 postseason games of his career.
Well, good for him.
Postseason wins. So he played pretty well. But 35-24, Chiefs go on to the Super Bowl to face San Francisco,
Dun, dun, dun.
the 49ers. Now this game, 49ers jump out big.
It was-
Aside from kind
yeah.
of a late burst, or like not even a burst, but kind of like
Damage control
things
from the
getting a little
Packers. Yeah,
interesting. This kind of was
This
kind
was
of
a
runaway
blowout.
from the get-go.
Yeah.
And our resident Packers fan,
Yep.
by way of Ahmad Green, is on.
And
side.
by way of Amon Green, yes, I am a Packers fan, but it was not good from the beginning. What's his name? Mostert or
Mostert.
Mostert.
Yeah.
Man, that guy had a game. I was just blown away. What was it? I saw something where it was plus 680 for him to be the one who scores the first touchdown.
Broke the 49ers playoff single game rushing record.
Second
over
all
Colin
time.
Kaepernick.
Second all time.
All-time
in NFL
postseason game,
Yep.
yeah.
And his story is so interesting too.
7
Go ahead.
teams cut him.
Yeah.
That kid was all over the field. I really liked him a lot. Just not a good showing
Can
for
you
the
name
Packers.
his school?
I cannot.
Purdue.
Purdue. Okay.
Purdue, Yep.
Okay, if he's been on 7 teams, he's at
I was
least
gonna say
been.
this is probably
that's
this
too
might
long
be
ago for me.
pre-Nebraska in the Big Ten. Purdue. But
Yeah.
Well, even then they're in the East, right? So.
Well, no, Purdue's in the West.
Are
with
they?
us. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
But they
that-
had that legends and leaders.
Yeah,
it was
that
not
makes
good.
things a little complicated.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like that fourth quarter, Green Bay, like with about 12 minutes left, I think, scored, making 2 touchdowns? Did you ever have a little bit?
I had a glimpse of hope, and then I realized what the 49ers were doing to the Packers all game
Yeah.
long, and I was like, I'm not going to get my hopes up. I was eating ribs. I was having a good time. I was like, I'm just not going to let this affect me
If it
anymore.
happens, it happens.
Yeah, if it happens, it happens.
By the way, Jimmy Garoppolo, I did not realize this. Did you see his stat line?
he only threw like 6 or 7 passes.
6 for 8, 77 yards. That's it.
That's all he needed to do.
That's like 2 drives for Patrick Mahomes.
It looks like
Yeah.
It looks like Tannehill's stats from
Yes.
Yeah.
the first 2.
That's the point.
Very similar
Tony
offenses.
Romo pointed that out during the Chiefs game that, like, people, I don't want to say they hated on the Titans for that, but, like, he's like, let me tell you, if you only have to pass for 88 yards to win, you're pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
That brings us, well, we'll get to the Super Bowl a little bit later. We're going to bury the lead on that one. We do want to get to some other headlines from around the league. As far as coaching changes, we'll also dip into college as well a little bit, but we'll stay in the NFL. I guess we'll start with Texas, the Texas move. Texans firing their defensive coordinator, Romeo Crennel, former head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Cleveland Browns at one point. They'll be promoting Anthony Weaver, defensive line coach within. I guess this mostly speaks to an indictment, if you have one, on the Texans defense. I mean, I think they were okay. I don't know that they were too bad. It strikes me, I was talking to Katie Orth, a big-time Texans fan.
She told me she doesn't really like the Texans.
No? Well,
No, she's more of a Cowboys fan. But that's okay.
Well, there
That's-
we go.
That's the media side of her
Now
playing
it all
both
comes
sides.
out.
Yeah,
Now
okay.
It all comes out. But it spoke to me of like this. Texans kind of feel like you need to tweak something, but you can't blow it up.
You can't fire O'Brien. You can't blow this team up because if you win the South Division 4 out of 6 times, like obviously you're the best team in the South. Like, but
Yeah.
you just can't do anything in the play.
Defense was actually worse than I realized. They were
Yeah.
the 5th
Yeah.
worst in the league.
Yeah, it makes
just
sense
better
now
than
that
the
I think
Bengals.
about it.
I'm looking up stats. I'm not playing on my phone.
Yeah. So
He's
that,
on Instagram.
That was one move. A couple moves. By the way, just quick shout out: Gary Kubiak, former Texans head coach, now the Minnesota Vikings offensive coordinator. So there you go. Interesting move there. I believe Super Bowl champion with the Broncos and Peyton Manning.
Okay.
Gary Kubiak.
Sure.
So there we go. As for the Giants, big news there. Jason Garrett
Yeah.
taking over as
Offensive
offensive coordinator.
That's fine. I mean,
I don't. It's weird because
what's the worst thing that can happen for the Giants? Like, you can't get much lower.
Obviously, he came up the offensive side of the ball. I remember he was like the whiz kid that Jerry Jones didn't want to see leave.
Now it's Kellen Moore.
But like the further and further, maybe I'm just misremembering this, but the further and further he went into his Cowboys head coaching career, I feel like, I don't want to say he lost his offensive identity, but like whatever he had coming in as this like, super hotshot offensive coordinator, he kind of was more of a delegator as head coach. I would say he was definitely more of a delegator. And so, it'd be interesting to see.
I don't know if he's as much of a delegator as just did whatever Jerry Jones did.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, true. I mean, I don't know how much control he had over it. But, like, when people were complaining about the offense past couple of years, they were complaining about Scott Linehan. They weren't saying, like, oh, Jason. He wasn't this head coach offensive guy who was the guy. Yeah, so I'll be interested to see kind of how he kind of resettles into this role.
That'd be interesting.
I think there's a difference in the NFL and college football where you don't have head coaches who call offensive plays that often in the NFL, where in college there are a lot of offensive minds who do that. I think
Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, exactly.
He's very good at it.
Does Cliff still do it?
I think he still does.
Oh, okay. Well,
I believe so.
I would guess.
I thought I
but
heard that somewhere too.
When you're in the NFL, you do have to delegate responsibility because you're in so much more of a CEO role instead of you can't take on all that responsibility. And I think that's why Garrett lost that offensive mindset.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if he can, kind of find that magic again in New York. He has pieces out there. I mean, Daniel Jones isn't bad, and Saquon Barkley is obviously a transcendent football talent.
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting to see if he can, do something there that he wasn't able to do in Dallas ever. So
I just saw this headline: Arizona Cardinals Cliff Kingsbury's play calling under fire after Week 2 loss. So I'm guessing he did call plays for the Cardinals.
okay, yeah.
But speaking of Giants,
Yes.
someone they're not going to have offensively,
Eli
Manning.
Got to give a shout out to our guy Jake Eichstead because he wants us to.
He wanted us to mention that.
The one and only Eli.
Hall of Fame career. Yes or no?
I don't love it, but yeah, he is. He will be. I'll say this. He will be.
I feel like he was so dependable. Like he has to be.
And he was
Super Bowls.
consistent.
He was super durable.
Yes.
It's weird because he was, for me, he was pretty, as you said, Aaron, he's like consistent. I never really saw him or thought of him as like a consistently super high-end talent per se, but he was like a consistently, for a lot of years, a very good, very solid, kind of like a Phillip Rivers-esque Hall of Fame career. Because there's that conversation out there.
I think they're different careers because Phillip Rivers did have a great career, but he's never won a Super Bowl. I think the only thing that's saving Eli's career is 2 Super Bowl MVPs and 2 rings. Like he went 500 as a starter. And most of the time, a 500 quarterback is not making it into the Hall of Fame. But the teams, those Patriots teams he beat in the Super Bowl, and like the way he was able to lead it,
wins too.
They were so big, and like the one against the undefeated Patriots is the one that always rings true in my mind. He went into that game as a huge underdog, and he was able to lead this like scrappy Giants team to a Super Bowl. Like I don't know, he's a Hall of Famer in my book. Maybe not a first ballot guy, but he deserves a Hall of Fame nod.
David Tyree Syracuse with the helmet catch. I had to get that out there if we're talking about that.
Yep. Okay.
Another move. Okay, just dropping down to college real quick. Some relatively big moves. Baylor announcing. Speaking of NFL hire, Matt Rule going to the Panthers. They announced Dave Aranda, LSU defensive coordinator, coming in as their head coach. I did catch up with Odessa High head coach Danny Cervantz, Baylor alum.
Oh, yeah.
Asked him his thoughts. It's funny because while they were still looking, he kind of mentioned that a lot of people liked that Joey McGuire kind of internal. He was the interim for a little bit. I think a lot of people there would have been happy with that. But it from what I've seen, not just talking to him, but there does seem to be a level of contentment around Aranda, like a pretty big name, obviously coming off a pretty big accomplishment.
Pretty big, yeah.
Like it's in a weird. It's like a flashy, non-flashy hire, I guess. Like I don't know.
That's how coordinator hires always are.
Yeah, it's
though.
not. It's not like a Kirby Smart. Like there's a ton of buzz around this guy because people think he's going to be the next Nick Saban. It's maybe not quite that level of flashiness, but I mean it's right up there. It's defensive coordinator for, although LSU, I guess more of an offensive team this year. That's weird to think about. Not that they weren't good.
Coach O had a lot of good things to say about him too.
Yeah,
so.
He did. Go Tigers.
I feel bad for Coach O. Like, he lost everyone after that.
Joe Brady, I think, went to the NFL.
Yep. He's offensive coordinator. He's 30 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to be a name that we're going to hear for a while.
Yep.
If I had to guess. And then quick shout out, college, Greenwood's Brody Ray, wide receiver, going to UTPB, one of the more decorated
Love it.
players in the Basin over the past few years. And UTPB, they always have a good
Local
young,
recruiting.
Local recruiting base.
We need to recruit one of our quarterbacks.
Yeah.
They,
I want Brett Leach in a UTPB uniform.
Yes.
You hear me?
make it happen. Don't let him go to Sol Ross or West Texas A&M. Can't
Get
let
him here.
slip through.
Keep him in the basin.
Now, with that in mind, we will circle back to the NFL and talk about is a
Super
big
Bowl?
game coming up this week. The Pro Bowl. No, we're
No,
not.
we're not
We're not
talking
going to talk about the Pro Bowl.
I'm sorry now.
I did look in curiosity. It is apparently NFC versus AFC. Well, I guess just real quick, do you like the NFC versus AFC, or do they the
They
draft?
need to just cancel the Pro Bowl. Nobody watches it. Nobody cares.
Just an accolade, and then that's it.
They show up. They can do the little drills and stuff, and
The
Lamar can
skills
throw.
challenge.
Yeah, Lamar can throw footballs and hit the goalpost and all that stuff. Whatever, that's fine. But why play a game?
The skills
Nobody
challenge
cares.
is now
Yeah.
the Pro Bowl.
Exactly.
Per Commissioner Jake Meyer.
Yeah,
All right.
There we go.
Get Goodell,
You heard it
Goodell
here
out of
first.
there.
It's 7. Okay. Super Bowl 54 in Miami. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to J-Lo and
Shakira.
Shakira. Yeah, I couldn't believe I forgot about Shakira.
Shakira,
Halftime show.
Shakira.
I think that'll be super exciting. I think some Chiefs fans I know are probably a little more excited about the game itself. Chiefs, 49ers. I was just looking through kind of the overall team stats. I did not realize
Is it Chiefs by 1?
Chiefs by 1.5. I
Nice.
even saw Pick'em earlier. ESPN's projector has, 64% Chiefs, 35% 49ers, for whatever you make of that.
It's because the Chiefs' offense
Although
is so good.
the total offensive and defensive yards, the 49ers are a better team in both areas. A little bit better on offense, but more of a gap on defense with what they can do there. Although, keep in mind, Patrick Mahomes, of course, did miss a little bit of time, and he was a little banged up for a few games during the regular season. So, important to remember.
Who was their backup when he was hurt?
My guy, Matt Moore. Shout out my roommate in Lubbock. It's not him, but same name. So he's
Oh,
going to
okay.
get a ring. He's going to get a ring. My guy's getting a ring. I still like the Chiefs here. I
like the Chiefs,
I
yeah.
think there is something to be said for a team that, obviously the 49ers want to win it, and they'll come out firing. But like a team, I think it takes a lot for a team to come close and then to replicate the success they had a year ago like the Chiefs did and take it one step further. I mean, how many times, it's always talked about the Super Bowl loser, never makes the playoffs, almost never, right? Something like that. But, Chiefs, they come short in the AFC Championship game. I think they're hungry for this. I think, there's just something you can't replicate when you come that close the first time and you get another crack at it, that even as hungry and determined as San Francisco will, I think just mentally it's going to be tough for the 49ers to match that.
And this is, I apologize to you. I feel like the Chiefs have, Chiefs, jeez. Yeah, the Chiefs. They have a 4-year window right now to win a Super Bowl. Outside of that, I think they have so much speed. Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, all these guys, Kelsey, they're all great, but in a couple years, they're not going to be there anymore. Where I think the 49ers are really built to sustain success for a long, just because it's on the defensive side of the ball. It is so much easier to sustain a defense for a long period of time and have a lot of success. I think this is the 49ers' first crack at a Super Bowl this decade.
Yeah.
This is their first shot. We'll see them back in there 2 or 3 more times. I really believe so, just because that defense is so great with Bosa and all of them. It's tough to not expect them to be good again. The Chiefs, they have this year, next year, a couple years after that to get that Super Bowl, and I think they're going to come out hot this year.
Mahomes, I think,
he's going to be great for a long time, and I really do think the Chiefs are going to be good for a long time, but you will not see a team as fast as this Kansas City team probably ever again. I mean, some of these guys are just so quick.
I mean, I guess he could get a contract extension this next year and kick it in the year after. But, I mean, Mahomes is going to go from eating up whatever he is on your salary cap to $40 million. Like that's going to have ramifications. That's going to matter big time.
I saw somebody was we were talking the other day, and I'm just praising Kansas City's receivers right now because Tyreek Hill. Somebody was like, "Oh, the announcer said Tyreek Hill is so much faster than this guy. He just needs to keep running." Like when Mahomes had an overthrow in the game, and I just said to the guy who was sitting next to me, Tyreek Hill's faster than everybody but like 2 other people on the planet. Like you just throw it to him.
It's like him and Usain Bolt.
Exactly. Like no one is faster than that guy. I don't see that speed staying that high, for 6 years, because that's so tough on your body. I don't know. Yeah. I think the Chiefs are going to be great for a long time. Like, don't get me wrong, the next 4 years are going to be Chiefs 49ers, but I don't know.
I think that's a really good point.
I don't think they hold on to that same level of success as long as the 49ers
But
do.
this year,
I have the Chiefs. Yeah, for sure.
Where are you leaning, Aaron?
Well, of course, I'm always going to pick the Chiefs in this scenario.
Well,
but
of course.
like looking at it from
Where's
a technical standpoint,
what's your head pick?
like 49ers have a lot of assets who can run the ball. Like they just have a lot. And I think Kansas City proved last week that they can defend that.
Yeah.
So whether or not they can do it in 2 weeks, I think it's
not
gonna
at home.
Yeah, it's gonna be the turning point to the game. I don't even know if Colin Kaepernick remembers how to throw a ball, so I'm not worried about that. I think Patrick Mahomes is the better quarterback here.
Jimmy Garoppolo?
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo.
Colin Kaepernick.
Sorry, I listened to a podcast about Kaepernick today.
Second leading rusher in a 49er playoff game history.
Anyway, I don't remember if Garoppolo remembers how to throw a football.
Yeah, no.
Threw it 8 times.
And I think Kansas City just has so many wide receivers. I don't know if the 49ers have the cornerbacks to cover them.
I mean, they have Richard Sherman, but Sherman wasn't even matched up on Devontae Adams that entire game.
Well, that one play, Devontae Adams blew right past him.
Oh, torched him. Yeah.
I mean, I think Sherman's still a very good player.
Even though he's the best quarterback in the game.
He's not the super high-end elite cornerback he was, but he's still very good.
He's still a top 5 cornerback.
Yeah.
I mean, and him and Revis. They were going at it on Twitter. Man, that was great. But yeah, I don't know. Outside of Sherman, I mean, I don't know who they have who can lock down a guy like Tyreek Hill and Sammy. I mean, Kelsey is such a matchup problem. Oh man.
I feel like Sherman too. Like if there's one liability with him, it would maybe be high-end speed. Like what makes him so good is his size, physicality, and that's not going to match up with Tyreek Hill. Maybe with Sammy Watkins.
It'll match up with Kelsey really
Kelsey?
well.
Yeah. That might be a good.
That's where they're going to have to put him. We aren't even talking about Matthew from Kansas City. That guy has had
Tyron,
he has had a heck of a season. The Kansas City defense isn't a joke either, and I don't think the 49ers offense can keep pace.
I always think of the Kansas City defense, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, but I always think of it as like it may not be statistically the most high-end unit, but they always, these past few years, have had like several high-end players who, if
make up
they
for
can
that.
make pop plays at any point. Maybe it doesn't show up consistently on a defensive unit, like play after play after play relentlessly, but you got Matthew can
do anything.
Force fumble, interception here and there. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I do think 49ers kind of path to victory if they can kind of do what the Titans weren't able to do and control the clock.
They can't get down. That's the thing. They can't get down and have to throw the ball.
Chiefs' possessions, and if the Chiefs' possessions they do have end kind of like they did at the beginning of the Texans games, end in drops that shouldn't have been instead of touchdowns, and that's the only chances they get, maybe. But I still kind of like the Chiefs here. Though I think the nation is much more split than we are on this panel. With that in mind, that's going to do it for Final Score Overtime for a couple weeks. We'll be back after the Super Bowl?
Yeah,
correct?
After the Super Bowl, and then we'll probably talk some college basketball once we're getting closer to tournament time, like conference tournaments.
Yeah.
We'll probably get into that a little bit. It's going to be a little on and off for a while
Let y'all
here.
know how our districts are.
Exactly.
And
Bringing out here.
I was just going to offer, the last word to Aaron Reynolds. If you wanted to chastise the state of Kansas for their basketball shenanigans.
I just can't stop laughing about it. Like you could have like Kansas by the end of all this might have 6 players.
Yeah.
They
did you see the suspensions come down?
I haven't seen them yet.
D'Souza, 12 games.
But I didn't think they were finished looking at it all.
Maybe not.
But that man picked up a stool. Like,
He did. You can't do that.
Those
I
Jayhawks, they're
cannot-
just bad.
dude, and going for the steal there, like,
Yeah.
if you're losing the last like 5 seconds of a basketball game, people don't even play. Like
Yeah.
you literally drop the ball and you walk up the court
This
to go
is the
shake
second
hands. The
time.
fact that they went for a steal there is
Oh,
just.
I know. I like that they didn't back down from it.
Oh yeah, a couple years ago when Monmouth did the same thing, that player
Yes.
stole it and went and threw down like a tomahawk dunk, and all those Kansas players were mad.
Yep,
like,
I
yep,
do
I
remember
love.
that.
You know what? I don't like Kansas, so I'm totally fine with that.
I
Like,
didn't
think
realize
it's funny.
either like how intense this rivalry was.
Oh
I
yeah.
guess.
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess I
It
just
doesn't
didn't.
feel like it's that big of a rival.
No.
It's like the farm school and like Kansas City's school. You know what I mean? Like, that's
Yeah.
how I
Kansas
feel.
City adjacent school.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, and just because Kansas State, like up until the last like 2 or 3 years, hasn't been.
Worth anything.
Yeah. So,
They've been very sporadic with their success.
Yeah.
but
By the way,
love it.
To twist the knife even more for Aaron Reynolds, 2 former Illinois basketball head coaches there. I did not even think about that till the
No,
other
I
day.
thought you were gonna bring up the Illinois player stepping on that kid. Though.
On the Purdue player. Yeah,
That's a sore subject.
yeah. Man, there's so much sports that happened this week.
We got a lot to get to. But that's going to do it. Final score overtime. Jake Meyer, Aaron Reynolds, yours truly, Ben Peck, in remembrance of Jake Eichstätt.
In memory of.
In a couple weeks.